Good afternoon once again. This is the Board of Governors meeting for Missouri Western State University, February 25th, 2021. I apologize for us getting started a little bit later than what our scheduled commencement time was. Our finance meeting went a little longer. We had very good discussion, and that will be recapped later in this meeting, but we had started that at about noon, and it went just a little bit longer with that. So I apologize if that's affected anyone's schedule. So we do have a full board here today, and thus a quorum, and so I will call this meeting to order. Our first order of business is to review the December 3rd, 2020 minutes that are in your board book. Once those have been reviewed, I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Governor Landis, a second by Governor Norton. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes of the December 3rd, 2020 board meeting say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay, the minutes are approved. Next, we have in the board book the minutes from the December 17th, 2020 Finance Committee meeting. Once those have been reviewed, I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes. So moved. A motion by Governor Ebersol, second.
Second.
A second by Governor Schoonover. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the December 17, 2020 Finance Committee meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Okay, the minutes from the December 17, 2020 Finance Committee meeting are hereby approved. Next, we have in the book minutes from the January 29, 2021 inaugural Board of Governors retreat minutes. It's the first one that I certainly have been a part of, and first one that really anybody can remember. So that was certainly a very quality event, very beneficial, and hope to have that be in kind of the regular rotation. But we did that was a public meeting, and we do have minutes from that. So if those have been reviewed, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Sorry.
Okay, Governor Wallman has the motion. We have a second.
Second.
Governor Norton has a second. Thank you. There's no other discussion. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the January 29, 2021 Board of Governors retreat, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The minutes from the January 29, 2021 Board of Governors retreat are hereby approved. Now we will move into our presentations by vice presidents and various other folks connected with the university. The reports are in your board book, and we will start with our provost, Dr. Doug Davenport, for his report on the academic and student affairs.
Thank you, members of the Board of Governors. It's great to be with you this afternoon. And my report can be found under tab B, beginning on page 32. I would like to, before I begin my remarks, just to reflect briefly back on the conversation that we were just having in the Finance Committee meeting regarding tuition at Missouri Western in comparison to that of other Missouri public institutions. And I cannot help but want to point out that we are one of 3 open admissions institutions, universities in the state of Missouri, which means that we attract and welcome students who are often not well prepared to come to college. First generation students are a significant proportion of our population, and they bring with them many challenges, and we seek to address those needs, which requires a higher level of support that turns into the need for more resources. And we take that challenge on gladly. I believe that we are appropriately positioned as an open access institution. I would also say that our mission of applied learning is crucial. It means that students get a customized learning experience, if you will, that they get to help craft. Well, those things are not easily done in a large scale kind of operation. So it requires hands-on connections between students, faculty, and staff. All of that means that we have to have more resources to support the student learning experience. So that is just a little take there. And I know that students see the value of their experience here. And I think our tuition is not reflective of the true value of the experience that they receive. Now, with that said, I will move on, stop preaching, and I will now talk briefly about some things. I want to begin by talking about our planning for the fall semester. It would seem as though we have just begun the spring semester, and yet it is crucial that we be prepared for the fall semester. And as you know, with the COVID world that we have lived in, it becomes even more crucial that planning begins even sooner. And so we have been engaged in that. It is, of course, our goal that we provide an engaging and fulfilling in-person, on-campus experience for every student in this next fall semester. It is crucial that we do so. With regard to academic offerings, that means that we are returning to a primarily face-to-face classroom environment. Now, that sounds like a reasonable thing to do, but when you begin to look at the challenges that are presented because of the pandemic, because if we're going to remain safe, we have to adhere to protocols. And we have, in doing the planning, looked at every single room, every single space on our campus in order to find a way to provide those rooms. And I can say, with much work on the part of faculty, staff, and administration, we have been able to identify places for every single class in an appropriate format. And I am very pleased that we will see that happening this fall. What I would consider a return to a very engaging environment that looks different from what it does today. That is an exciting thing that we have to look forward to. I would also want to point out that we are planning for an increased opportunity for student experiences. So it's both the in-classroom experience, it's the out-of-class experience as well. That is crucial to who we are, and students need it, and they want it, and we will provide it. So we are planning to increase the number of on-campus experiences that are available for our students to take advantage of. And I'm excited about that. As an example, the Division of Student Affairs has been working diligently. They're preparing an entire list of events that will take place during the fall semester. And we know that those are crucial because students need to continue to be engaged. That's important for their mental health. It's important for their social development. And we are committed to providing a full-on college experience that they are in need of and desire. Related to that, we're also expecting to have a full range of Gold Friday activities. That's something that, of course, with our COVID circumstances, it's been very difficult to provide a significant number of them, but we are committed to doing that for the fall semester. And so I'm excited about that as well. I wanted to report, you'll find in my the report provided for the Division of Student Affairs that we have already had over 50 on-campus activities this spring semester, which that's pretty challenging given the fact that we have limited, face-to-face experiences. We're limiting visitors to our campus, all because we know that we have concerns for health and safety. And those have proven to be effective, I might add, that the precautions we have taken have ensured the health and safety of our faculty, staff, and especially our students. And we're very grateful for that. But it does make challenging the providing opportunities for student experiences. But I am pleased that the Student Affairs Division has worked diligently along with SGA to make things happen in spite of that experience. I do want to then briefly update you on a few initiatives that we have been engaged in. I've talked about these before. And just to give you an update, for instance, on our master academic plan. And I think that's one of the things, how is it that we can talk about the future if we don't know what the future should look like? And an academic plan is a way to shape the future based on intention rather than simply by accident. And I'm excited for what is going on with the work that that team has been doing. And there is a strong focus in that plan as it currently stands on our applied learning mission. And I think that is important because students, when they're looking at a college, they need to know that when you come to Missouri Western, you're going to have those experiences that are going to prepare you to go into a career field. And we are excited about what that will look like. And we are nearing completion of that master academic plan. Likewise, we are nearing completion with the academic program review, which is a process we talked about from last year that is important so that we can continue to ensure the health, both fiscally and in terms of enrollment of our academic programs. The work that this institution did last year to examine every single academic program, we're building on that, and I believe that we will have a sustainable plan that will enable us to do a regular review of all programs to ensure their viability. And finally, something that was also mentioned last year and part of the charge that came from this body was a review of the honors program. And I'm pleased to say that we are making progress on a revised honors program that is streamlined. It will be less costly to us as an institution, but will be fully aligned with our applied learning mission. And I think it'll be an even better experience for our students in the sense that they can complete an honors program and have that experience at Missouri Western much as they could at other institutions, but it will be aligned with who we are. And I think that is important. And I just want to say I appreciate the work that is being done by faculty, by staff, and by my colleagues as administrators to see this institution move forward in the face of significant challenges all around. And I know that they're not unique in terms of these challenges, but it is very easy to lose sight of those things that matter if you don't pay attention to them. And so I am just very grateful for the work that has been done by all of my colleagues in helping us to get to where we are today. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Do you have any questions for Dr. Davenport?
I have one, and I apologize for having one, but this is from your retreat report, I believe, of February 15th.
Yes, sir.
You had a graph, and unfortunately, this came to me, so I looked at it, and you had a graph with regards to the student experience and innovation. And I noticed that there were 3 segments that represented about 10% of the population polled that were either things are tough, I'm struggling, or I need to have someone contact. I just wondered how you were addressing those, or if those situations were being addressed on a one person to one or an individual basis. And I know that's a challenge,
Sure.
finding out who those individuals are, but 10% is a significant number in our environment.
It absolutely is. And I think that's indicative of who our student population would be. One thing I want to note in regard to that, one of the significant stressors that our students are experiencing right now have to do with finances. And when finances are an issue, it bleeds into every area. And so the fact that many of them wind up being stressed, and so that 10% is not unexpected. And so we are addressing that. We use several forms of intervention. We have a team that looks at student performance and behavior in particular. We also have the Max, the Griffin, which is a chat bot, which actually engages with students. And it's been quite amazing to see how many students will respond back and provide information there. So we had 96% of our students opt into the system and are engaging on a regular basis with Max the Griffin. So that actually is an additional portrait, and we know who those students are, and we can identify them, and then we can reach back out to them. And so we are doing so. Our academic advising is so crucial here, because that is, it's almost as though they need a coach, not just an advisor. They need someone to come alongside to help them. And we are committed to doing that. Do we do it perfectly? I would say we do not. We do not know all of those students, nor can we provide all of the help that they need. But we have a wide range of resources, and I think we do a good job of trying to connect students with the resources they need to meet their needs. And so it's a great question, and we need to continue to get better at that, however, because if we are going to improve our retention rate, it will be incumbent upon us to make sure we are taking good care and supporting students in every way that we can. Sure.
I don't have any in the way of a question, but I will make the comment that I enjoy all of the reports in the book, but yours, especially, you get to read about all these tremendous accomplishments of our students, and half the stuff I don't even know what it means. That it's so impressive. At national organizations where presentations are being done or being published in various journals, and awards being received, and that's tremendous what our student body is doing, and the input that our faculty has with that in molding those young minds. And so that is part of the book that I always kind of view as a celebration. You get hit with some of the other parts, but you should get the credit for getting to have that within your area of presentation. So
Thank you.
Kudos to you and your team and faculty and all of our students.
Absolutely. On their behalf, I receive that and appreciate it very much.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Davenport. Next, we get to have the maiden voyage by Dr. Melissa Mace for the enrollment management report. Not to put any pressure on that, but we'll. You're off to a great start because you had very good information in the board book and very detailed. So you have primed the pump with us sufficiently. So welcome again. I know we've already welcomed you, but the first time in speaking in this capacity. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson Teeman, Dr. Kennedy, governor's colleagues, and Missouri Western community. I would like to start with just talking about some notables here. The division has just hired or filled 4 open positions, including degree audit systems coordinator in the office of the registrar, the campus visits program coordinator in the office of admissions, and the 2 admissions counselor positions also in the office of admissions. We are continuing slate implementation. The implementation is going very well, and we are moving on to the next phase, which is now underway, and that is integrating early college academy and graduate admissions. In March, we will begin cycle prep and working on any updates to the admissions application in preparation for fall 22 recruitment. The new application is expected to be live July 1, 2021, with all systems functioning. I do want to note that I am incredibly pleased with the performance of the staff in admissions and technology services and how well they have worked with Strata Information Group to keep Missouri Western moving forward. Advising and registration preparations are also underway. Advising for continuing students officially opens on March 17th for students advising with faculty and staff advisors. Current student registration for fall 2021 classes begins on April 5th. To get the word out to students, several efforts are planned or underway, including door hangers in residence halls, table tents in several buildings on campus, large ads in the Griffin newspaper, notices on Handshake, electronic billboards in Blum Union, flyers and videos in the Griffin Post, flyers in the bulletin boards across campus, and notice in the family newsletter. Efforts will continue throughout the spring semester to drive advising and registration. The revision of old and/or outdated transfer guides has begun. We look forward to strengthening ongoing partnerships as well as reaching out and building new relationships with community colleges. Dr. Logan Jones and I are looking forward to traveling to North Central Missouri College tomorrow to meet with the Mitchell Holder, Dean of Instruction there. In hand will be the new transfer articulation guides for early childhood education and elementary education. I would like to give my most sincere thanks to Dr. Adrienne Johnson, Chair of the Department of Education here at Missouri Western, along with her colleagues, and Tony Millis in the Office of Admissions for their hard work on this effort. I will be reaching out to the deans and department chairs in the coming weeks with a process outline on how we can move forward in a systematic manner and support the relationships faculty and staff have already nurtured. Additionally, Tina Washburn has reached out to 46 community college campuses in Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, and Nebraska thus far. Tina Washburn is in the Office of Admissions and has just begun working with the transfer student population over the last few weeks. Tina will be instrumental in helping Missouri Western build new relationships and increase the number of transfer students selecting Missouri Western. Supplemental instruction is an academic support program run through the Center for Academic Support under the direction of Susan Garrison. I believe this program warrants consideration. Supplemental instruction is a peer tutoring program focused on courses with typically higher DFW rates. For fall 2019, sections of this course, the faculty who lead them engaged in the opportunity to work with CAS and provide supplemental instruction for their students. In 7 out of the 10 sections, the mean final grade for students who took advantage of supplemental instruction was higher. Additionally, 5 out of 10 participating classes saw a 0% DFW rate for students participating in supplemental instruction. And finally, students who participated in 4 or more supplemental instruction sessions saw an even higher grade. Supplemental instruction may be one attainable means of boosting the success and retention rates of our Missouri Western students, and further exploration is necessary, but these indicators are promising. Admissions recruitment is continuing with virtual and face-to-face recruitment activities, including school visits, recruitment fairs, campus visits, showcase, and Go Griff weekly Zoom series. The written report from enrollment management located in the board book provides details of the activities. Additionally, we are launching additional print campaigns with postcards in this region, St. Joe and the surrounding area, on It's Not Too Late to Apply and scholarship information. On March 10th, a team from admissions and marketing will be off-site for the day, planning a final recruitment push for this year, a yield and summer melt strategy, as well as plans for the 2022 campaign. Registration for Griffin Orientation opened 2 weeks ago, and we are off to a good start. We have 12 orientations planned, both face-to-face and virtual, beginning in June. As of earlier this week, we have 175 students registered for Go and 252 students from 17 states telling us that they are in fact coming to Missouri Western. I think at this point, I also want to mention the average GPA for those students is 3.32 with an average ACT score of 20. The recruiters will begin their first calling campaign to reach out to the incoming students who have indicated They are coming, but have not yet selected an orientation date. This calling campaign will be the first in a series of campaigns the recruitment team will conduct to engage further with our prospective students. The second planned campaign will focus on prospective students who indicated on their FAFSA they were interested in Missouri Western, but who have not yet completed an application at Missouri Western. With that, we'll move on to the numbers. Maybe. There. What did I do? There we go. Thank you so much. These numbers are in your board book. They provide with the file for the previous 10 years with both conversion and yield rates included. We can use this data to help make an educated prediction operating under a series of assumptions of what fall enrollment might look like for first-time freshman students. We are comparing our current data to the data set from 2015 because that is the last recruitment cycle that most closely aligns with how Missouri Western is now recruiting students, as opposed to 2016 through 2020, when Missouri Western engaged with a third-party vendor to generate applications. We are currently recruiting at a 9% lower pace than we did in 2015. Assuming that pattern continues, we may then assume an applicant pool of approximately 2,350 students with an acceptance rate of 97%, which is what is currently happening. With these numbers in mind, and a hopeful yield rate of 34% or higher, we can expect approximately 776 first-time full-time freshmen. With regard to the transfer student population, again, we see the historical data, including conversion and yield rates. If we follow assumptions based on the same logic as discussed in the previous slide, we will yield somewhere between 182 and 189 transfer students. However, in this case, I do not believe the logic will hold. We got a late start on transfer recruitment due to a vacancy, but I am very pleased with Tina Washburn's efforts and the work we hope to do with faculty around transfer guides. And I would expect to see a bump at the next Board of Governors meeting. I would like to share one final slide with you. And that's on key performance indicators. As you see on this slide, we are paying close attention to housing applications, commitments to Missouri Western, Griffin orientation registration, a registration survey that we have not yet sent out, but will send out the first week of April, and then who actually does attend GO orientation. So at this date, and the housing number is a static number that comes out only on Mondays. So as of Monday, it was 87 students compared to 185 this time last year. I do want to say that the housing application opened later than typically, and I do expect this gap will close. However, the uncertainty around COVID and students not knowing whether they want to live on campus in that situation will likely be something we want to watch very carefully. The commitment is a new measure this year. We do not have a seat deposit. So instead, we have asked students to indicate to us, do you plan to attend? It's an intent to enroll. Only we've asked them to make a commitment. That commitment number you will see is very close to last year's Griffin orientation registration number. The Griffin orientation registration itself is at 175. We believe that part of that, the discrepancy there is not understanding that they have to go to their portal and actually select an orientation date. Therefore, the calling campaign should rectify the majority of that gap. These numbers will grow daily and weekly as we move through the spring portion of this cycle. The registration, returning the registration survey will be another indicator of commitment. And of course, actually attending Go orientation and being registered for classes will be the final indicator prior to the start of the semester. I want to thank the many staff and faculty who go above and beyond to support all of this work. And thank you for your time. And at this point, I am happy to take your questions.
You have any questions? I'll ask a couple to start with. Was a little confused. I thought we're changing our policy to have a seat deposit so we would be better able to track admitted students who were going to enroll rather than just waiting for them to show up on the first day.
I believe that the decision was made to hold off on the seat deposit for this year because of the ongoing struggles economically around COVID. I do think that is something we should consider for future years, but I believe the reason we chose not to do it this year was because of COVID. It also needs board approval to do it. Thank you so much, Mr. Morrison.
That will be in our proposal.
Okay, somehow that had slipped through the cracks, and at least in my mind, because I thought we had decided to move towards it, even if it's nominal. I just think from a planning standpoint, that puts us behind. It's certainly customary with other places, and make people think they have a little skin in the game. I get we don't want to make it onerous, but if it's just,
We have done something very similar to that on residents.
So we still have a housing deposit. That might be what you're thinking of.
well, I knew we had that, but I thought we were, well, it's in the process. Okay, that's good. Another, and I know this predates you, but you have it on your graph or your charts there. And I realized we were outsourcing recruitment and whatnot, but are you able, just from your background or your understanding and interpretation of that data, it just strikes me that if you go back, and I understand, I'll even preface this with some of those larger numbers when it was outsourced, we were being sent students who probably weren't ready to be going to college, and so our retention of even some of those big numbers ended up being closer to historical numbers. They didn't stay at that high freshman enrollment rate. But the question I have is just if you want to look at, let's say 2014, where we enrolled over 1,000 freshmen, but based upon only 2,600 admitted, whereas this past year we admitted more than double that. It would almost seem to fly in the face of the logic I just said, that we admitted double the students fall of 2020 than we did in fall of 2014, but yet 40% of those actually enrolled. And with this larger net, not only was certainly the percentage was down, which might be understandable, but the total was so much farther down. I just don't even from an enrollment or a recruitment standpoint understand how you throw out a bigger net to catch fewer fish.
Yes, I'd be happy to address that. I see you're putting the chart back up for me. Thank you. So based on conversations I had with staff members and trying to understand what had happened over the previous years, you will see that in 2016, I think this is a laser pointer. Okay, so in 2015 was the last year that recruitment was coming out of organically out of the Office of Admissions. And so there were strong relationships across the region with counselors and with the admissions staff. But this is transfer. Let me go back to freshmen. Oops. We need the freshman slide up. But anyway, so what happened was the decision was made to go with a third-party vendor, EAB, to generate more applications. But because of the cost of that company, the decision was also made to offset that cost by stop traveling. And face-to-face is a very significant part of recruitment. Building those relationships, keeping those relationships with the high school counselors, all of that is very, very important. And so you'll see a steady decline. Thank you. Okay, it's the wrong one. It just says freshman admissions funnel at the top, that one right there. Thank you. Okay, so you see a steady decline each year on the yield rate because there were no relationships. The relationships weren't being managed the same way because we were dumping so many applications on the front end. Of course, we're open admission and we admitted quite a few of them, but those same students were being sent to multiple institutions. And the only thing they really knew about, they knew some basic things about Missouri Western, but they had no real ties to the university. So you're going to see a big drop there. So if you want to look at 2020 specifically, what I believe is that those relationships had deteriorated to the point where we were unable to pivot when the pandemic happened. And that's why you see such the yield rate of 12.9%. And what I discussed earlier is that we will need to yield at least 34%, at least, in order to exceed what we did last year. I mean, we could yield at 31 and exceed our last year, but I'd really feel more comfortable at yielding at 34% or higher. That's my interpretation of what happened. I think we're on a much better path now. We're on a good path to grow the institution, to rebuild and reestablish all of those relationships. I have a phenomenal team now in place, and I'm very hopeful that we will do good things this year and great things in the future.
Are you able to talk just a little bit more about, I have heard the stories you're telling have, at least to me, have come more to light recently. I've had people step forward and tell me some of those stories of the historical relationships that were fractured or at least strained.
Yes.
Do you believe that those are reparable?
Mhm.
Are we seeing some progress with that? And what kind of plans are we doing to rebuild our brand and our connection? Certainly in St. Joseph, but whatever you view as our main footprint.
Yes. So first, let me say that with the parameter set because of COVID and our inability to get back into all of the classrooms, repairing relationships is taking a little bit more time, but we are able to get back into our own backyard, which is incredibly important here in St. Joe and the surrounding area. So I'm very pleased about that. I do think that it is within our ability to repair those relationships. Peggy Payne, who has been with the institution, has very strong relationships in the community, especially with the counselors. And so I do believe she will be able to guide her team into building strong relationships. Yes.
And the A+ program, that would be one of the
Yes.
kind of building blocks of things
Yes.
we're improving, correct?
Yes, we put in place a very strong A+ plan. But what was so important about that, what was so pivotal is that Dr. Kennedy, Dr. Jones, and others went out and talked to the counselors, listened to our community, and acted upon their recommendations. If we had not done that, then it would have been more challenging to repair those relationships. But the respect that our president garners from our local counselors and from the region is helping us quite a bit.
Those are stories I've heard as well, and I think it's important that we hear them and we have to look at where our deficiencies were, but certainly where the improvements are coming with that. And that is what I have heard from high school counselors and parents of prospective students. So thank you to all the people you mentioned, Dr. Jones, Dr. Kennedy, yourself, in doing that. We kind of a well-intentioned plan that didn't turn out quite the way we initially planned with how we were going to handle A+. So I think that shows the community that where there is a need, and if we've done something that didn't quite work, we're willing to revisit it and try and serve our community and our stakeholders. So I appreciate you highlighting the revisions to the A+ program.
Yeah, I would have to say also that it did take Mr. Morrison figuring out how we could do it with the money, and I deeply appreciate his work as well.
Governor Landis?
Well, back to our finance committee and what Daryl had to say, and we're watching those numbers. For us to really, the numbers of students coming here has got to go up, because if we don't do that, and we had a line item on our budget in here about travel, and we're trying to find how to save money. This particular thing, travel is an investment, because relationships are more important today than any point in time in my professional lifetime. And to restore those is going to move those numbers just like you're talking about.
Yes, sir. However, this is nearly March.
Yep.
And we haven't been traveling. And so even though that money is still in our budget, we'll be able to give most of it back for a budget savings. Yes.
Well, I want to go back to my point.
Yes, sir.
If you do not travel to go see people eye to eye and do that, I'm going to be arguing why you should be traveling.
Yes.
My point.
Agreed.
We'll find the money somewhere else.
Yes, thank you. I agree. I do want to add something to my presentation, because it did come up earlier in Mr. Morrison's presentation. Of those who have indicated an interest that they are coming to Missouri Western, I believe it was, let me give you the number. There we go. So far, 252. Of those 252, 193 are from Missouri. I thought you would find that interesting, given the discussion around out of state. So thank you.
Capacity of Missouri Western?
Well, according to the historical pages, when the university was first built, it was built with the idea that we could be at capacity of 15,000. I think that we have made it as far as 7,000 or 8,000. And I, would love to see us back to 7,000. Absolutely. No.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. May.
Thank you.
Next, we will have Dr. Josh Looney to talk about his preference of order he wants to go, athletics or university advancement.
All right, thank you, Chair Team. And let's start with page 45 of your report. That's athletics, esports, recreation services. I suppose that's fitting for those sports fans. That was Michael Jordan's jersey number upon his comeback. And that's really what's happening this weekend. We are having a massive comeback of athletics. In fact, I go as far as say we're attempting something that's never been before attempted in the history of athletics at Missouri Western. And it's kind of crazy. Every single one of our sports will be actively engaged this weekend, including football, which will open their spring practice. So what does that look like? Here's what what this weekend looks like for us. 2 women's lacrosse games will host. 6 p.m. Friday night, the first ever women's lacrosse game in the history of Missouri Western will take place at Spratt Stadium under the lights against Culver Stockton. So there's 2 women's lacrosse games. We have a soccer opener Friday as well. That will be your appetizer to the women's lacrosse game. 2 home basketball dates. We'll open a 3-game baseball series against Washburn here. We'll be at the indoor track championships for the MIAA. Softball opens their season in Arkansas. Men's and women's golf will head down to Arkansas for a double makeup event that was canceled due to weather, not COVID, which is a good thing. Tennis, we did have a home match, but that one did get canceled because of COVID. Volleyball opens their spring schedule in Wichita. And then finally, spring football practice will be underway. So it's an exciting time. It's a great time. Our athletes, I'd say team morale is at all-time high for this year. They're back on the field competing. For our staff, it's a lot, and we've had to rethink the way we operate, and graduate assistants in our department will fully know at the end of these next 3 months if they want a career in college athletics. I'll put it that way. There's, especially with the weather, the indoor complex right now, it's always busy this time of year, but it is when we're not outside, it's 4:45 a.m. is the first practice time, and it's for morning workouts for our football team. And then we're not done until a little bit after 10 p.m. and it's every hour on the hour with some academic classes that are there during the day as well. So very busy time, but very exciting time. All on top of that, our athletic training staff, while managing these events, have managed to administer over 2,000 COVID tests on our winter and spring sports athletes. Positivity rate's been 2.1%. Very pleased with that number. Obviously, we had a basketball pause and had some issues while both of those teams were on the road. But outside of basketball, we have in a 2-week period, we have been very successful with our COVID mitigation plan. So an exciting time for the department. I mentioned in our last meeting in January, I showed our team GPAs, and there's a formal report in your book about our record-breaking academics for the 6th straight semester. I just wanted to go a little bit deeper into those numbers. 255 of our student athletes achieved a 3.0 or higher GPA this fall. That's 65% of the student athletes at Missouri Western. That's an all-time high for us. 16 of our 17 teams had average GPAs. And then from president's list to dean's list to athletic director's honor roll, all of those eclipsed previous highs. So a great semester for our student athletes, and that starts with coaches. And frankly, we weren't sure what those numbers would look like with just the way education had to be altered in its delivery this semester. There's a lot less class checks in the mornings when you're online. So that's we weren't quite sure with our normal protocols. Big events coming up next week, and it's an invite-only event, but it's something the whole campus can celebrate. And we'll officially cut the ribbon on our esports arena, which has generated plenty of attention on the first floor in Bloom. It is nearly done. They're installing the computers today. The graphics are complete. Just a few more finishing touches here over the next week. But 3 p.m. next Thursday, we'll officially unveil that space. A reminder to this board and the approvals that was done with the funding that came from external sources. So just an exciting buy-in from community and a great day to celebrate. So we look forward to that day next Thursday. Baker Fitness Center received some upgrades in partnership with SGA. The locker rooms have been closed this semester for COVID, but purposes, and we've encouraged students to come from their residence halls or off campus ready to work out with some cubbies. But during that time, that's allowed us to redo some shower systems and some much needed renovations in the locker facility. And so what our West Campus team has been working on that. And then SGA has chipped in through their budget with some new squat racks and glute ham racks that were aging as well. And those should be delivered and installed later this semester. So some great news there from a campus side. On our recreation services as well, you heard Dr. Davenport and Dr. Mace talk about student engagement. We restructured the staffing a bit on the rec services side and hired a new position called a programming coordinator. It was an existing position that we revamped. And Nathan Longren joins us following his master's degree from the University of Arkansas. And his focus will be on just that, student engagement and growing our club sports, intramural offerings, and the things that engage student athletes or students in non-intercollegiate athletic events on campus and growing those. So we're excited for him to join us. He joined us just a couple of weeks ago. Do want to make mention of women's soccer student athlete Mackenzie O'Neill was elected chair of the NCAA Division II Student Athlete Advisory Committee. What does that mean? I would say the best way I can describe that, she is the highest ranking student athlete in governance in the NCAA at the Division II level. There is a committee that meets and works with President Mark Emmert and all of the governance committees at the national level of the NCAA. Each conference sends one rep to rep their conference. And Mackenzie's been the MIAA rep for, I believe it's 3 years. And now she's been elected chair of that national committee. So we'll have a Missouri Western student athlete serving as one of 3 chairs alongside Division I's rep and Division III's rep that will work with Mark Emmert and the NCAA on those initiatives. She's a nursing student here. Pretty sure she's a 4.0 student here. She is just unbelievable in every asset and a great leader as a senior on our soccer team as well. So kudos to Mackenzie O'Neill. I will shift into the report for foundation and advancement, which is on page 49. And I could divert to Governor Woolman for the report since he's the vice chair of the foundation and just heard this report just a few weeks ago at our meeting. I'll bring some good news. Total assets right now at the foundation are nearing 60 million. It would be great if we cross that before the end of this year. I'm told that would be the first time the foundation would be over the 60 million mark. That's following a year where, for the first time in the institution's history, the foundation was able to support programs and scholarships that was above $6 million back to the university. So that's a lot in large part to fundraising, but also to the investment committee that really works diligently in ensuring those invested funds are continuing to collect and mature and grow. And so we're in a very good spot there, and we hope to continue to see that upward trajectory. We're also not spending a whole lot of money in the foundation. We're at just 13% of our fundraising expense budget, but we're 105% of our unrestricted goal. And just a great effort from our development officers. We sat down at the beginning of this semester and said, okay, the traditional way of fundraising isn't going to happen this fall. We aren't going to be hosting donor events. There won't be donor travel. So how do we engage and activate and still reach and exceed the budgeted revenue goals that the foundation board had put forward? A lot of discussion came through that, and what we ended up with was a Western League rally, which we've reported on here previously. That happened in mid-December. Ultimately, 235 new memberships came to the Western League. That is the unrestricted general fundraising arm for the foundation. Overall, that's $65,000 in new funds being raised. And then with the retention efforts, we hope to be around the $300,000 mark. And so we're at an all-time high now of 559 members compared to the previous high of 371. Chrissy McCann was instrumental in putting that together, but Kim Weddle, Patty Long, Jenny Sherlock, Alicia Otto, that whole group, it was all hands on deck, and appreciate for everyone in this room that contributed to that. It was a great event financially, but it was also a great event to have people in the community talking about Missouri Western with their peers and with our community volunteers. So a great piece there. The last update I'll give on the foundation and for both reports is a restructuring we've done in partnership with Dr. Kennedy and our gifts officers, is better aligning our development team with academic deans to be better intertwined in the needs of each academic department. So we've officially assigned a development officer to each of our 3 academic deans. And so Chrissy McCann will work with College of Business and Professional Studies and the Craig School of Business and Technology. Patty Long will work with College of Liberal Arts and School of Fine Arts, and Kim will work with the College of Science and Health and Nursing and Health Professions. And so we'll have a mini Fund a Need campaign that will come up here in mid-March and kind of close out our year. But excited about what's gone on in the foundation. And with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions for Dr. Looney? Could you, back to the athletics part, and with all the realignment, and I've seen some of the things on social media about your new locker rooms and whatnot. Could you just tell us who's in what locker rooms now, or who has locker rooms?
Well,
or where you found the space for it?
Well, the locker room, really the only new locker room that has been established was the women's lacrosse, where we put them. So we have a visitors locker room in the backside of Baker Fitness Center, which actually was developed when the Arizona Cardinals came here for training camp and funded that locker room. Gosh, that was probably 2011. I was working at the Chiefs at the time. Todd Haley was the coach. It had to have been 2010 or 11. I don't think it was the first year here. So anyway, so the Arizona Cardinals outlined that locker room. So there was ample space in there. And typically that's been used for visiting soccer teams and visiting football teams that come to play us. And so it's a large space. We actually walled off a portion of that space for our home women's lacrosse locker room. I told our coach, Rachel Benzing, if at first we weren't going to have a locker room for this first year. It was something we worked toward. And then once she was recruiting and was over the 22 member mark, I said, if you get to 25 student athletes in year one, we'll use corporate athletic dollars in the foundation to buy some lockers in year one, and then you can fundraise the rest. And she got there. So it was a good reward for her. And that's probably the video you saw of them walking into a bare bones locker room that needs that they painted themselves, and our West Campus team carpet and did the ceiling tiles, and then we pitched in with the lockers. So yeah, that's been a neat thing. All of the other locker rooms have stayed the same, but with the COVID protocols for visiting teams, those things change every single night depending on what sport we're hosting and if we can provide a locker room for a visitor.
I think that's a great story. It's fairly, small in scale, but showing the ingenuity of taking a little and stretching it into something that's very important to a group of our students, in this case, student athletes. That's tremendous.
We had to put a door in there because it will still be the visitors locker room as well. So we just had to lock off the lacrosse portion of it for when visiting soccer teams and football teams come to play.
Those of us from big families, we understand that. Hey, one other thing I kind of piggybacking a little bit of your referencing to Governor Wolleman, that it would also point out that I have appointed him to be the Board of Governor representative to the foundation board, and just what a perfect fit that board, which he's very active in, is elected him to leadership. And so he is our representative. So just for everyone's kind of reaffirmation there that we have a representative on the foundation board that serves as the conduit between both boards. And then we also have a representative on the incubator board, which is Governor Landis, and forms that conduit that goes back and forth. And you kind of touched on it, but I think to me, it's just a great thing to look at, that I believe it's correct that the foundation actually has more funds right now than before they made the gift over to the university. So kind of one of those that the foundation really stepped up and was supportive in doing things, but is also through sound investment, increased fundraising, some of the other things, it hasn't just simply depleted those funds. They've actually.
That's accurate. And we're hoping to, based on market conditions in the fiscal year in that way, but as of the snapshot, as of the end of January, that's accurate. The gains in the foundation were higher than we were at this time, even with the one-time gift that was made last year to the university.
Invest in the Dow, not in the NASDAQ.
That's right.
All right. Any other questions or comments for Dr. Looney? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we will have Daryl Morrison, our Chief Financial Officer, who has already led our Finance Committee meeting prior to this one, but we'll kind of recap that. But just for those watching on video, that we did spend over an hour and a half, close to 2 hours on those reports earlier. So a lot of questions have been already asked and answered, but we'll have the highlights here and can certainly ask new questions.
So as the finance guy, given our current situation, it's really hard for me to follow Dr. Looney. He's always so upbeat, got a lot of good things going on. Things are great. And he stopped by the office earlier today, and I made this observation for those of you that have been around and followed our men's basketball team. you're all aware that he is wearing something from the Sundance Wicks collection today with his jacket. And so
Gerald.
wanted to point that out. I never want to do. And the second thing, apparently I'm rubbing off on it because he mentioned another Arkansas graduate coming to campus. And personally speaking, I don't think we can get enough of them here. So.
Those out-of-state students.
That's right. That's right. I do have an abbreviated financial report for you, an update on my area. It's found in the book, of course, in more detail. Just a couple of things I want to highlight quickly that maybe we have not covered yet. And, I good to go? We go. I want to talk a little bit about our CARES Act funding, just a brief update. Don't want to give you into a lot of details on it at this time because I've done that. We'll share more information later. We were awarded $7.9 million initially in the first round. We have expended 7.4 of those dollars and have the others obligated, and we've made a lot of improvements on this campus and our infrastructure. So I appreciate the support of my colleagues and this board and the campus community as we've tried to use those resources. But then there was a second round of CARES funding that was signed into law on December the 27th. Of it, we were awarded $6.6 million in this round. And it's really in two pots, as was the original. 1.8 is for our student population, and we'll be looking at those now that we've got our census behind it and be distributing those funds in the near future. The second thing is 4.8 for institutional needs. We have a plan. We're working on some plans to enhance some other infrastructural needs of the campus that fit within the guidelines of COVID. So we're seizing these federal funds and trying to put it back in a reinvestment into our campus facilities as much as possible within those guidelines, which will pay dividends for our campus for many years to come. So just wanted to update you on that. Additionally, the state deferred maintenance award that was listed out in the financial report earlier, 1.9. We've obligated all 1.9. There's everything in that from roofing to some parking lot repairs to some more ventilation and those type things. So we're putting those to work for us. Our physical plant, we have a lot going on. Normal maintenance is ongoing, but this has turned into one of our big issues over the last 6 or 8 weeks, right? Is snow removal. I just want to shout out to my guys. They come in 3:30, 4 a.m. in the morning to do this in freezing weather to get this campus safe for us to work on. They come in on Sundays if athletics, we've got something going there, games and things. It's not always the prettiest. It's not always, you know, every little piece of snow being gone or ice, but they do a tremendous job. And it's very much appreciative. Okay. Appreciate it. We have a lot of minor projects going on. They did, Dr. Looney mentioned the Blum esports arena downstairs in-house. Our guys did a ton of that work down there. In the finance, budget, purchasing, and human resources, we've already talked about this. We've got our 22 budget process underway. We're preparing to move forward. We're enhancing our enterprise management system, our ERP, that is Banner, finance, HR, all those things. We're retooling that, getting that so that it's better used to our campus. We're implementing some things that we've had but just never utilized on this campus. And so we're just bringing it up to speed, okay? Technology services, a lot going on there. They continue, Corey, others, campus support across the campus for various things. The course scheduling has been a big issue over the last month or so. with a group in technology service, working with the academic side as we begin to prepare for fall 2021, actually, not 2020. I'd like to go back in time, but we can't, right? So, but we're looking at that. And of course, as Josh mentioned also, the esports infrastructure. A lot of work, a lot of things going on there. So I'm really thankful. I've got a good group. There's not as many of us as there once was, but we're working hard, doing the best we can for the campus. Okay, just give you a quick update. This is the slide that we discussed on cash from our cash position as a university. There was a question about some of this, so I just we adjusted, thanks to Mr. Flasco over there. He helped me adjust the slide quickly we had an 8.1, and that was the question in the other meeting, right? To bring us up to the 20 million. It's 8.1 timing difference with the deposit from the feds. So that should clear that up, I think. Okay. Here's our total fund situation. We talked about all this in our finance committee earlier, so I'll not rehash it all. But the bottom line, as we walk through this, is that we've got the $4.5 million deficit that we discussed in detail earlier, and the things that were and the steps. I just want to reiterate this to the board and to the campus community and others that are following along with us, how we're going to address this. We're going to look at all the areas. We're going to look at scholarships, utilities, travel, supplies and service, unfilled personnel positions. Okay. We are going to take a draw from the foundation, okay, which will still leave us with some funds from the foundation for future years should we run into unexpected things, right? And then we'll make that 2.6. Any questions for me this afternoon as a follow-up? Okay.
No, hold on just a moment, though. I would, if there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the January 31st, 2021 financial report as has been presented by Mr. Morrison. So moved. Have a motion, have a second? Second. We have a second. If there is no other discussion, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the January 31, 2021 financial report as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The motion is approved for the financial report as presented. Thank you, Mr. Morrison.
Thank you, Governor Tim.
Okay, we will next move on to Hannah Berry for the report of the student governor. Governor Berry.
My written report can be found on page 69 of the board book. Pretty much talks about how online hybrid learning has become more normalized with each semester for students at Missouri Western. Would say that we are very much in the swing of things as we are 5 weeks through this semester. We're kind of getting close to the portion of the semester where midterms, first exams are starting to become something that students are concerned about. But definitely overall, the semester has seemed more normal than more recent semesters have for students. I had the opportunity to partner with Dr. Mace and Elliot Swope and Kent Hire for a recruitment video over the winter break. And I was very pleased to learn about the recruitment efforts that were going on with Dr. Mace and her team. It is already in use to my knowledge, so that is very exciting. As far as Student Government Association goes, we are continuing to look for unique ways to serve students that are COVID friendly, but that are also in response to the unique needs that students are experiencing as a result of COVID learning. I think the hardest thing has been finding pandemic-friendly events that students are interested in and want to be engaged in. I would shout out to the SGA team though, because there have been a number of events that we've been able to host this spring so far that have had good student involvement, engagement. So that's exciting. We are hosting student government elections upcoming, so I put that in my report as well for students who may be interested in listening and want to join student government. So with that, I welcome any questions about students.
Thank you, Governor Berry. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. Next, we'll move on to the report of the interim president, Dr. Kennedy.
Well, good afternoon, Chair Teeman, Vice Chair Eversole, governors, and members of our Missouri Western community. Before I get into my remarks, I just want to give a congratulations to the video that Governor Berry had done. I had actually sent the link to the governors and I viewed it myself several times. It's excellent. So thank you so much for doing that. And as Governor Berry was saying, at the end of this week, Friday, February 26th, we will have completed slightly over 1/3 of the spring semester, and we are well underway. Our students and our faculty are engaged in our instructional enterprise, which has involved an approximate ratio of about 54% face-to-face to 46% online or hybrid delivered courses. And I feel it important to point out that spring is a season of hope, right? And despite the deep freeze, which recently forced us to close campus, we are now headed in the right direction. Our days are getting longer and our nights are getting shorter, and the temperature is going in the right direction. So I couch that as Missouri Western is moving forward with sure direction and clear purpose. And as evidence, let me have you consider the following, just a sample of some of our 2021 spring activities. Look at our Gold Fridays. We have faculty engaging students in the research enterprises. As I have personally witnessed in my walkabouts in Remington and Agustin Halls, chatting with students associated with Dr. Barta, Dr. Ekdahl, Dr. Baker, and Dr. Rhodes Labs, just to name a few. The faculty and students are collaborating in research and applied learning experience. We have faculty engaging our students in applied learning in our Center for Excellence in Applied Healthcare Learning, our simulation labs. Our students are working with faculty such as Dr. Kendall and Dr. Gentry and Tracy Grove, just to name a few. And also directly through our new Gold Friday courses. We have students learning about the business of brewing in a Gold Friday course that we're doing in conjunction with our good partners at River Bluff Brewing. It's a very good course. We also held our 21st annual Super Science Saturday on January 30th. If you're not familiar with this program, this gives our faculty an opportunity to showcase their teaching and their expertise in reaching students K through 12. And it serves as a really great vehicle through which we can get high school and younger students interested in the STEM field. Now, this year's event was held virtually, of course, due to the pandemic, but the sessions are recorded and are available for viewing on YouTube. And I would be remiss if I did not give Dr. Ducey a shout out from our Department of Chemistry because some of his videos are really cool and I was really impressed. So please take a look. As Dr. Looney mentioned, we also have sports. Our student athletes are currently participating in every sport. We are all sports all the time this weekend. And that's exciting because it's another way for our students to get engaged in a collegiate activity. I've often said this during the pandemic, that we must find our silver linings, however slim, wherever and however we can. And these activities, our applied learning, our research, our collegiate sports, our activities are definitely evidence of a silver lining. We're also planning several spring events to celebrate the achievements of many of our Griffin family. For example, our commencement planning for our May 8th commencement for both our winter 20 graduates and our spring 21 graduates is well underway. We learned how to commencement in September of last year, and we will repeat with improvements this spring from our lessons learned and perfected. We also are planning to have our faculty and staff awards, our retiree recognition and service awards ceremony. And the ceremony to recognize last year's retirees and this year retiring members of our Missouri Western community, to present our faculty and staff awards, and to acknowledge the years of service of so many of our Griffin family is important to our community, and our planning is well underway. There will be more details as that progresses. Additionally, as we have heard from Vice President of Enrollment Management, Dr. Mace, we are intentionally shifting towards implementation of strategic efforts and initiatives related to recruitment and retention. In her report, she has outlined 6 strategic initiatives to enhance our efforts in these areas. But I want to just mention one that I have asked her specifically to start developing, and that is an intentional and a very robust first-year experience program. Currently, our fall to fall retention of first-time, full-time freshmen is about 65%. Moving that needle will require campus-wide effort and support as that program is rolled out. But given the response of those engaged thus far with Dr. Mace, and having witnessed the positive effect that programs of this nature can have, I am confident that our efforts will have a good impact on our retention. And I appreciate the dedication to this initiative of those who are working to develop the program with Dr. Mace greatly. We can do this, we will do this, and we can move forward with sure direction and clear purpose. So let's talk about our fall planning. As the provost has outlined, our fall 21 planning has well underway, and it has involved an examination of the lessons we learned from this year, 2019, 2020, as well as 2021. Examination of best practice. What have experienced others reported? What have we learned from them? What is the guidance on current scientific research findings and recommendations? And we continue to engage our COVID response teams on a regular basis. I personally have continued to participate in weekly or biweekly conference calls involving the community at large, as well as the Missouri Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development. As such, as we began imagining fall 2021, I've charged our Vice President, Provost of Academic and Student Affairs to work with the deans, the chairs, the faculty, physical plant, and staff to develop, first of all, an academic plan which would maximize our return to normalcy, or as close as we believe we can get within our COVID response guidelines, in concert with our COVID response teams and in concert with cabinet deans and other constituencies. We intend for our fall 2021 to be as quote unquote normal as is possible. As reported by the provost, we are moving the needle for our face-to-face classes, particularly in our freshman and our sophomore levels, so as to enhance the educational experience of those groups. And we are also overseeing a campus re-engagement plan to re-energize our campus and the collegiate life experience that our students so desire. Questions we are wrestling with. What does a new normal look like? How do we maximize opportunities to enhance student engagement in a pandemic, or perhaps if we're very fortunate, post-pandemic world? I am incredibly excited about what this translates into from our Student Affairs Division. We will emerge as a campus reinvigorated. So based upon that hope in the future, I believe there is much hope for the future of Missouri Western, and I am very confident and excited about what that will mean for us. Always, always, always within a safe environment, following science, best practices, and guidelines from our state, regional, and national agencies. Some other updates I'd like to provide to you. Marketing and communications. As of February 1, Missouri Western has been working with local marketer Greg Hatton of Greg Hatton Creative Business Solutions to help us evaluate our marketing, branding, and communication strategies with the ultimate goal of developing a comprehensive plan for the university. Greg is currently working in the discovery phase. He's learning about the universities. He's been meeting with various stakeholders on and off campus to measure the perception of the university. His assignment will run for 6 months and will culminate in specific outcomes and deliverables to reposition Missouri Western in its current market. We are excited to engage Greg in his work and eagerly look forward to the products of his efforts. Also, let me tell you a little bit about our strategic initiatives, kind of staying the course as we build for the future. As you may recall, I was tasked by this body to remain true to the initiatives we have launched during the past year. We've heard a little bit about esports, and we are very excited to have our grand opening of our arena on March 4th. I do want to let you know that we have 4 different teams that are off and playing, and our student interest in this is growing exponentially. If you have any skepticism about esports, let me just give you a few statistics. In 2020 in the United States, there were 200 varsity level esports programs in universities. That's a 100% increase over the same group of 2019. And according to the Pew Research, 97% of people between the ages of 13 and 17, the prime college age demographic, play some form of video game. Now, not all these individuals are esports player, right? But a majority of this audience is engaged in esports culturally. They have the same relationships with professional and amateur esports teams that other students do with traditional athletics teams. Imagine what esports will look like in 10 years, in 20 years, if the pace of this continues. I also want to mention our Center for Military and Veteran Services. We were recently awarded the designation of a military-friendly school at the gold level. We earned this by being evaluated through public data sources and responses related to a survey. There were over 1,200 students that participated in the survey, but only 747 that earned that designation. We scored within the top 10% of schools in the small public category. Our Center for Service is also doing very well. We have had students volunteering with organizations such as the American Red Cross, Mosaic Life Care, Second Harvest, just to name a few. To date, we have 16 different service opportunities that have an estimated need for 73 students, 450 projected weekly hours, and around 5,500 combined project hours through the end of March, which would provide an economic impact for our region of nearly $150,000 for the quarter. I'm also very proud that Mosaic is partnering with our Center for Service and using some of our students as volunteers for their COVID vaccine clinic at the East Hills Mall, in addition to our nursing students as well as faculty. Finally, I just want to mention that in the innovation stockyard at our incubator, Dr. Gary Clapp has been installed as the new director. His relationship is still a member of Missouri Western, but he is working as the director of the incubator. And I am very hopeful that Gary's appointment there will provide the catalyst needed to realize some business potential there. Finally, let me tell you a little bit about my efforts in external affairs and community relations. From day one of my appointment, I have made it my personal mission to push Missouri Western to engage, to re-engage, to repair, to build, to seek out opportunities to engage with a host of individuals, our community and regional, business and industry leaders, as well as our elected officials, in order to promote the university in every way possible. Since the second week of September, when I was fortunate enough to have to persuade Mr. Steve Johnston to rejoin Missouri Western, I have had 95 such appointments. And these appointments have been opportunities to plant seeds for future support, collaborations, and to widen the lens, if you will, through which others view the university. For example, in addition to serving on boards for the Chamber and Community Alliance, I was recently appointed to the Mosaic Life Care Foundation Board. We have students in our population health program who have been working with the foundation board to help plan their children's discovery center, which was recently approved by their board to move forward to the next stage in development. Our Center for Workforce Development is collaborating with Community Alliance and the United Way to provide a neighborhood leadership program, leadership training, which aligns with the Community Alliance Imagine 2040 community plan. In terms of our elected officials, I have made 2 visits to Jeff City during the month of January. On Tuesday, January 26th, I was invited to provide testimony to the House of Representatives Subcommittee on Appropriations and Education. This is chaired by Representative Rusty Black, with Representative Brenda Shields serving as vice chair. As requested by that subcommittee, my testimony centered on Missouri Western's response to COVID-19 in terms of how well we conducted the fall semester, our use of COVID's fundings we had received, and finally, what we thought this next fall of 21 would look like. I provided those details to the committee as a way of indicating our successes in managing the pandemic on our campus. And I am pleased to report that my testimony was very well received. And Missouri Western was congratulated both for its virus mitigation efforts, which kept our campus safe and operational, but also for our strategic use of COVID CARES funds, which have helped with virus management, but also provide ongoing benefit to the infrastructure of the university. Finally, looking to campus engagement, my conversations with Staff Association President and board members, the Faculty Senate President and Executive Board members, as well as the Student Government Association President and Vice President are ongoing. As much as my schedule permits, I continue to do Friday walkabouts. I should say my schedule and weather permits. I continue to do Friday walkabouts with Faculty Senate President Greg Linstead as we tour buildings and meet with faculty and students. And I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the very good work on behalf of the university that these individuals and their organizations provide. Shared governance requires shared commitment, and I am happy to engage in these endeavors. Finally, I also want to thank my cabinet for their very good work. We are a very lean and mean fighting machine. We have folks that are wearing many, many hats, and their dedication and their diligence to their efforts continually impresses upon me. I am very grateful for their support, and I look forward to working together with them in the future. I believe that is the end of my report, and I am happy to take any questions.
Any questions, comments?
It appears you've been very busy.
Yeah.
Before we move on, Governor Wallman, do you need to?
I do, and I apologize. I pushed back another commitment as far as I can, and I'm communicating, and I can't get an extension beyond what I've already got. I apologize for it. I can't say any more than that. And I know there's issues on the agenda that need to be addressed.
Well, the daytime job gets in the way every now and then.
Well, yeah, it does, and I apologize.
All right, well, thank you for your involvement and you bet. We'll talk to you soon.
All right,
Thank you. Is there any other business that anyone would like to address the board with before I give my report and move into executive session? If not, I have a few things here. One of which recently the president of the Student Government Association here at Missouri Western had reached out to me and sent me a copy of a resolution that the student government did here, and then he requested to meet, and so I had the pleasure of sitting down and visiting for a while with Nathan Scott, who is the president of the SGA, and it was a very quality conversation. I mean, it's a very exceptional young man, and who's been elected president by his peers. A lot of really exciting ideas and things of that nature. Just was a nice dialogue and visiting, but the student senate has passed this resolution, and he asked that I present that to the board, and I would have wanted to have done that even if he hadn't asked, because I think this is just things we need to be very mindful of. MWSU Senate Resolution FY 21-04, authored by Nathan Scott, SGA President, presented by Tate McCoy, parliamentarian. Meeting date had the first reading of November 13th, 2020. It's an MWSU Senate resolution to recognize and thank Dr. Elizabeth Kennedy, interim president, for her leadership. Whereas Dr. Kennedy has graciously accepted the enormous responsibilities of university president, and whereas she has been an outstanding leader which has guided MWSU through an historic and unprecedented global pandemic. And whereas her leadership has allowed Missouri Western to complete a successful and safe semester in spite of challenges related to COVID-19. And whereas she has been a fantastic stabilizing force for the university, and whereas she has been a fantastic partner to the SGA, actively listening, engaging, and working towards the benefit of students. And whereas she has helped to solidify a stronger and better future for Missouri Western. Therefore, we, the Student Government Association of Missouri Western State University, hereby resolve to recognize and thank Dr. Elizabeth Kennedy, Interim University President, for her leadership. Therefore, let it be finally resolved that copies of this resolution shall be sent to Nathan Scott, SGA President, Hannah Biakowski, Dean of Students, for signature, and a copy of the resolution along with the card shall be sent to Dr. Elizabeth Kennedy. It is signed by Nathan Scott as the SGA President, along with the Dean of Students and the Vice President. So I wanted to pass that along to the other governors and to congratulate Dr. Kennedy on being recognized by the group that we serve here, the reason that we are here. So thank you for that. It was a nice gesture. The other thing I'd just like to touch on a bit, and it's kind of in line with, we had a board orientation that we hadn't had before that was organized by Dr. Kennedy recently. And so looking at what the role is as board members and what we do, and we obviously all start from the baseline that we have the best interest in this university at heart. We care about the school greatly. We care about the community. We care about everything it stands for and want to do everything in each of our powers to ensure that success and the future for everyone concerned. So that goes without saying, but we're all individuals. We're all going to have our own ways of going about those things, even though we start from that common place of agreement and mutual respect with that. That kind of coincided with Dr. Kennedy 6 months being in as interim president. And so it's kind of logical places for some reflection. And I get the question a lot, and I know a lot of you all do as well, but the question is typically, what is the board doing in regard to the future leadership of the university? And when are you going to start doing something, relating to that? And my answer is always, it's basically the same answer. We started day one when President Wilson gave his resignation. We started preparing. There are different ways to go about that. Less than 3 years ago, a way to go about it when we had a long tenured president retiring was to employ a national search, to hire a consulting group to be involved with that, to form a committee made up of members of this board, members of the business community, members of the community in general, several members of faculty, staff, alumni, several dozen members of a committee, which hired a consulting group at a cost of in excess of $100,000, spent countless hours poring over resumes initially of dozens and dozens and dozens, paring those groups down based upon criteria set by the committee of what they were looking for in a president, what the values were, giving objective ratings to each of the candidates, having subjective discussion from some of the interaction, pared that down over a more than 6 month time frame to ultimately get to 3 candidates that were presented to this board to decide upon, and with the view that all 3 of those were acceptable candidates being presented to this board to pick, or they would not have been presented. And this board selected one of them. And my point of saying it is that is certainly a worthwhile process. in going through that. It serves a lot of purposes, but you don't always do the same approach to every situation that you have. All of the dedicated hours that were spent to that process by countless individuals, all of the phone calls, the vetting, the interviews at the airport, additional interviews. We ended up in a situation where we were excited at the time, but had a president who didn't serve for an entire year. So my point being that even with best of approaches, sometimes there are no guarantees of how things turn out. That is an option, but there are other options to things with that. So those are just things that we as a board can consider, need to consider, and need to do what we think is best for this university. And so I just make that statement, publicly in response to the private questions that I know all of us get about what are we doing. We have been doing a lot. We continue to do a lot. We work on our own time frame with that. Some have thought that it should have gone faster. Some think that maybe it should take a little longer. It's up to this board to decide. We have shared governance. We don't operate on an island. We appreciate and seek input. I get input all the time from stakeholders. I very much appreciate that, but it comes down to that obligation is entrusted to this board to do what in our own hearts we believe is in the best interest of the institution. I know everyone takes that very seriously. It just based on some of the timeframes and recent orientations and things like that from the student senate, that is our update. It's not, we work on our own time frame like that, but we very much appreciate the input and are looking at what we believe are all viable options in the best interest of this university. So having said that, if anyone has any questions or other comments, that is certainly welcome. Our next scheduled board meeting will be Thursday, April 22nd, 2021 at 1:30 in this room. And if there is no other discussion right now in the public session, I would entertain a motion for us to move in to close the meeting pursuant to Missouri statutes 610.021, sections 1, 2, 3, and 14, to consider legal matters, real estate, personnel, and other matters protected by law that relate to this university. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Governor Eversole. Is there a second? Second by Governor Schoonover. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of moving to a closed session to discuss those matters pursuant to the Missouri statutes that were referenced, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. That motion carries, and we will go into executive session to discuss those matters. This will, for now, end the video portion and the public viewing of the meeting, and then we will come back into public session once the executive session is over. All right, it is approximately 7:15, and we have just finished up our executive session, and a motion was made to come back into public session. Various things within the statutory class were discussed there, some of which were personnel recommendations. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel recommendations as presented and voted on in the closed session? Do I have a motion? So moved. Okay, do I have a second to approve the personnel recommendations? Okay, have a motion by Governor Eversole and a second by Governor Schoonover. Is there any other discussion? There is none. I will call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the personnel recommendations as presented in the closed session, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The motion to approve the personnel recommendations as presented in the closed session is passed or is approved. There is no other business. We are adjourned and this meeting of the Board of Governors has concluded. Thank you all for your service.